The Wonderful World of Darklords. Attached notes. Hadestown. During my time in Olympus, I caught sight of a ferry coming to the shore. A handful of scrawny, underfed indigents ran up to board it, each clutching 2 coins in their hands. The ferryman took their coins one by one, allowing them to file onto the boat, but shoved one man out with a sneer, tossing what must have been counterfeit coins into the water. Then he pushed off the coast and oared out to sea, vanishing into the mists. Curious, I asked the weeping man who had been cast aside about where the ferry was headed. The tale he told me was a strange one, but stirred memories of legends I had heard in other domains. A caravan in Harakir, a dark carriage in Barovia, a train in Zaricia, all were bound for the mists, and through them, for Hadestown, an underground city where work was plentiful for the hungry and desperate. In exchange for a meal, the man told me countless stories he had heard about it. Everybody dressed in clothes so fine, pockets weighted down, but admitted he could not verify them, as no one who has traveled to Hadestown has ever returned. As my patron will see, however, I was eventually able to find one exception to this rule, who told me a very different tale. The Lord. Unsurprisingly, the ruler of Hadestown is Hades, or rather Mr. Hades, a fey lord of industry, wealth, and power. Once, he would spend half the year below the ground in Hadestown with his wife, Persephone, a spring eladrin. When she went above ground, she brought warmth and plenty with her. When she returned to her husband below, the chill of autumn would set in. As time passed, however, Hades became increasingly fearful that Persephone would remain above ground forever. After all, could a spring eladrin ever love him enough to choose him and his underground city over a world of sky and sunlight? Driven by paranoia, he began to call her back to Hadestown earlier and release her later. Today, the land above Hadestown enjoys perhaps 3 months of summer before the winter freezes it solid. This, of course, motivates the desperate and hungry people above ground, to say nothing of those in other domains, to seek out work in Hadestown. In exchange for their labor, Hades offers plentiful food and shelter to his children. However, their failure to return for so much as a visit, to say nothing of Persephone's reluctance to travel below, made me secretly happy for my informant that he could not pay the ferryman. The land. Although it may have been possible for me to travel to Hadestown, and I certainly could have taken a mistway to the land above it, I doubted my patron would approve of me abandoning my itinerary to gallivant about on a side project. Therefore, while these tales intrigued me, I resigned myself to gathering information within Olympus. Luckily, I was able to find a woman named Alcestis, one of the few who had taken the ticket to Hadestown but returned to tell the tale. Apparently, her husband Admetus had foolishly agreed to travel to Hadestown, but fearing the tales she had heard of it, she stole his ticket and went there in his stead. Unfortunately for her husband, but fortunately for her, Mr. Hades had written up the contract for Admetus and Admetus alone, and refused to accept the signature of a thief with no respect for his laws. However, Alcestis had gotten a glimpse of Hadestown, and could help me sift reality from rumor. The people of Hadestown, she told me, did have all of their material needs taken care of, but nothing more. She described a town of people moving in perfect unison, every swing of their hammers timed together like a dance, every step as synchronized as a Falkovnian military drill. They never laughed or spoke or even looked at one another, but worked as silently and efficiently as a hive of insects. I could not help but imagine Hades as a necromancer commanding an army of mindless undead servants, but Alcestis assured me that the people of Hadestown were still alive. They simply lacked everything that made living worthwhile. Mr. Hades tended to them as meticulously as a clockmaker tending to the gears in his devices, but their time in Hadestown left them as mindless as those gears as well. Dread possibilities. It seemed that I had gathered as much information about Hadestown as was possible without visiting it personally, so I set about preparing for the next leg of my journey. I enjoyed one final meal in Olympus before departing. And it is with great reluctance that I admit that the blue-haired huckster Hades of this domain was correct. The lamb was delicious. As I ate, 3 old Vistani women wearing identical gray dresses and amber jewelry sat across from me at the table. I confess that at the time, nothing seemed odd about them joining me. "Alcestis didn't tell you about the wall," said the first of them. "What wall?" I asked her. "Oh, none of them told you?" asked the second. "That's what they're working on down in Hadestown. They're building a wall, high and thick. The wall keeps them free." "The wall keeps out the enemy," said the third, but her voice sounded like my own. The version of my voice that I hear in my own mind, as my own thoughts. The wall keeps out the enemy. Suddenly, I saw Hadestown in a new light. I have no need for food or shelter, but Hadestown offered more than that. Hadestown offered safety. One of the old women began toying with her amber jewelry, and I could see, flashing in her hand, a pair of coins. The coins for the ferryman. The coins that would take me somewhere with a strong wall to protect me, to keep the death and darkness and fear away from me forever. My ring of protection went cold on my finger, and I saw something dark and dead moving under the skin of the women's faces. The 3 women. The 3 witches. With a scream, I leaped to my feet and hurled an eldritch blast at them, but they were already gone, their laughter echoing in the air around me. I didn't realize that I had summoned my form of dread until I saw the inn's patrons cowering in terror. Flushing, I grabbed my things and made a hasty retreat. Parting thoughts. By all reports, Hadestown is a trap. Mr. Hades builds his massive wall to protect his wife and his children from the outside world, which means protecting them from leaving him. I can only hope those disgusting witches do not follow me on the next leg of my journey, but from what I have heard, there is little room for their brand of vague mysticism in the lights, machines, and chaos of San Francisco. Regards, D.
Until now, I have only learned of Hadestown from bardic ballads and legends. Frustratingly, there has been sparse evidence of its existence. No doubt the little Eladrin keeps the truth of his empire close to his chest. For who among the living would willingly delve into the depths of Hadestown if they knew the truth? My servant is resourceful, or perhaps simply fortunate, to encounter a soul that escaped Mr. Hades' grasp and was brave enough to share her tale. One would think that mindless undead would be preferable for the purpose of a continuous remedial labor required to construct a massive wall. After all, a horde of zombies care not for worldly comforts. Yet, Hades utilizes people that must eat, drink, and waste countless hours each evening in deep sleep to survive. Perhaps he requires one in possession of a soul to power some unseen element of his empire. Or he simply desires control and power over those beneath him. The wall, as my servant astutely observed, is to keep his subjects within Hadestown and is the symbol of Hades' control. As long as he can force them to build it, his children cannot leave him. Hadestown is far from the only realm within the mist that lorded over by an insecure, overgrown child unable to let go of the one they claim to love. Bah! Hades may distract himself with colorful songbirds, but he shall never realize it is the warmth of Persephone that his people crave, not the cold grip of winter. Of course, as is the design of these misty prisons, he craves the same.
This has been The Wonderful World of Darklords. We have no affiliation with Disney or Wizards of the Coast. All music recordings used in this episode are in the public domain and were obtained through museopen.org. Titles and links are in the show notes. Dialogue for Yensid was written by Aslan Rex himself, who you can follow on Tumblr at Darklord Aslan. The Wonderful World of Darklords logo was designed by Haylight Jones. You can find links to their work in the show notes. If you'd like to support the show, look for us on patreon.com or find our tip jar on Red Circle. Thanks for listening. Now Danny was a frightened young girl, but hid her fear down where she could ignore. She tried to pit herself against the world to show it couldn't scare her anymore.